Let me also bring in at this moment, we are being joined by our guests, those who are keeping a very sharp eye on every development in United States. We have Rich Lodges, he's Florida co-chair, Republicans for Harris, and we are being joined by Anurag Mittal, communication strategist, former Capitol Hill staffer. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for being with us here on NDTV World. Rich, let me start by asking you, just explain to our viewers, especially those who are tuning in as far as India is concerned, what are Republicans for Harris? I mean, a lot of people would say in a deeply divided election, it's every man from both sides, in fact, standing up for their candidate.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. Really happy to be back. I think that Republicans for Harris actually indicates why, when all of the votes are counted and this is all said and done, I don't believe that this is actually going to be a close election. I don't think there has ever been a more unifying presidential campaign in the history of the United States. We've seen Vice President Harris bring together left, center, right. We have a Republicans for Harris in every state. And amongst other reasons why I do not believe that this will be close in the end, and I think that the Republican Party and former President Trump will be historically repudiated, is that we have undecideds whom I believe deep down are going to make a decision today that Mr. Trump is wholly unqualified to serve in office again. We also have, I believe, what will be the highest single issue voter turnout of any election ever. And those issues ranging from abortion access to education to firearm violence and death and trauma and injury, I think is another issue that is going to break blue. And also, last but not least, I believe that there are many, many Republicans and right-leaning independents who, perhaps many of them quietly, are going to cast their votes today for Vice President Harris. And I don't think that there's ever been a starker contrast between two candidates in our country's history. So Vice President Harris has been a unifying candidate, and I will promise that she will be a unifying president as well, not just for those who voted for her, but also for those who did not vote for her. She is not just saying it, she is showing it with the kind of campaign she's run, and she will show it as president.
You know, and that is something that a lot of people are talking about, not just in the United States, but outside as well. It's a deeply divided election, and what happens after the election would also be keenly watched by not only just political analysts in the United States, but across the globe. And like you said, there have been key issues, and the difference between both the Democrats and the Republicans, both the candidates have been quite sharp and stunning on those issues like economy and immigration. In fact, both key issues, Democrats, in fact, have been talking about the economic recovery post the pandemic and the new job growth, while the Republicans criticize them for inflation and pushing for tax cuts and, deregulation. Meanwhile, immigration is a topic, Anurag, sorry, I beg your pardon, Anurag, if I can get you in at this moment, immigration is an issue which is having a very, very severe impact as far as the voting preferences are concerned. And I'm not just talking about, let's say, Indian Americans and others, those who have been here, but also with the way Americans feel about both these administrations, or at least the promises which have been made by both these candidates.
Yes, that's fair. Look, when Vice President Harris was made the border czar back in 2021, the expectation was that she would take charge of the issue, or that President Biden, his administration, would figure out a solution to the issue. And obviously the Republicans weren't going to cooperate with them on the border issue, but I believe their alarms and their signs of warnings have been proven true. There have been millions of illegal immigrants who have come through the border, who have made the southern border unsafe for people. I visited the border earlier this year in 2024 in January, and I saw the situation with my own eyes. I mean, we were literally doing a press conference with the Speaker of the House and many congressmen, maybe 50 congressmen, and there were people crossing the border right behind them. So there was a flagrant, law and order issue and disregard for the law that people were coming through, and it was not being enforced. And now that the campaign has been going on, Vice President Harris again has made this campaign. She's triangulated again. She said, "Oh well, she's actually going to secure the border. She's going to fix the border problem." And I just don't know if that's going to convince the American people, if that's going to convince the electorate that she is the right person for that problem, to solve that issue. If you look at the public polling, most Americans actually have a bit of nostalgia about the pre-pandemic, pre-COVID era, the Trump era. And so they don't feel that they were better off than they were 4 years ago. And that's really the question that has to be decided this election. And as your other panelists have said, that this might actually end up being an election on social issues, gender issues, more than economic issues. Even though economy is number one for the population, if women come out sufficiently to vote for Vice President Harris, if the independents break for Vice President Harris, she may walk away with this issue. But the actual situation on the ground is a little bit shakier for her, because Donald Trump can afford to lose the Sun Belt states. He can afford to lose maybe Arizona, maybe Georgia. But if Vice President Harris loses Pennsylvania, if she loses the Rust Belt states, Wisconsin, Michigan, she's going to be in real trouble. Trump can also afford to lose Iowa, which was just said that Iowa was going to be going for Harris. He can afford to lose that, but she can't afford to lose the Sun Belt states. And so that's going to be, and Pennsylvania. So that's going to be interesting to see where that breaks. It's everybody's playing in the margins currently, but it's still too close to tell. But the hope this time is that we may hear the results maybe in a day or two than last time, which was much longer.
That's right. In fact, everybody would be, waiting with a bated breath about these results. And let me also introduce at this moment Sampath Shivangi. In fact, from the Republican Party, thank you so much for being with us at this moment. Let me start by asking you, like we were talking about economy and immigration, it's a very tough stance that Donald Trump has taken as far as immigration is concerned. And vis-a-vis economy, again, we are hearing the same, make America great again, make America strong again, something that he has borrowed from his last campaign. How is that impacting the voters on the ground? Or is it just the core Republican voter which is enthused by these, by these kind of campaign that Donald Trump had run?
Thank you for inviting. And yeah, I'm with the party for the last 48 years. I'm part and parcel of Republican Party in the state as well as national level. I served 3 presidents of the United States. So I know what we stand for. I think President Trump will do much better job. In 4 years, U.S. was on top of the world in finances, in the price control, in the war. We were above everything. Things have changed in the last 4 years. We had the biggest disaster in Afghanistan. America ruined Afghanistan. I think we have to take good and bad out of it. And the gas prices have skyrocketed. A common man cannot afford to have 2 decent meals. So if that is the case, we are experiencing with the Democratic Party administration. What do we expect next 4 years? See, I am an Indian American. We presume Mrs. Harris has some Indian origin contacts, but she doesn't want to accept it because it does not help her in the election wise. As I mentioned before, if she says she has Indian heritage, she may get much less vote than she is expecting, because all the African Americans en masse voting for Ms. Harris, maybe few with the Republican Party and Donald Trump, and those who are not happy with the economics and the policy of Democratic Party, they are helping Harris. I have no personal grudge against her, but I think at the national level, at the level of the world politics, I think Republicans will be better off for our country as well as India-US relation. I mean, I think I had mentioned before that I was invited by President Biden for a White House event when Prime Minister Modi ji came to US, and I was there. And on the first meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Mrs. Harris, he literally begged her, invited her to come to India in her vice presidency. But she went all over the world. She never went to India. But I'm not sure what
Okay.
her intentions are.
Okay.
So I think Trump was in India when in the third year of his presidency, and he declared just last week that India is his friend. Indian Americans he is a fan of them. So I think we can expect, at least I'm, Indian American. I have both allegiance to India as well as to US. So I feel
Let me,
Trump would be better
okay.
for India.
Right. Let me bring in Rich once again on this. Rich, you heard both the gentlemen, and is immigration, an issue that is putting Kamala Harris on a back foot? There has been the Democratic, presidentship, or under Joe Biden, she has served under that administration, and in the last 4 years, at least in the campaign, people have seen and they have been talking about record number of illegal immigrants coming into the United States. While Donald Trump talks about completing his Mexico-America wall project, he also says that he will, take some drastic steps like signing the executive order for completely abolishing by birth citizenship right to Americans. Is that a sore point as far as Kamala Harris is concerned? The performance?
Parties for lack of immigration reform, but I will let our guests know that in our conversations with especially undecided voters, they are aware that President Biden and Vice President Harris had negotiated a very substantial bipartisan immigration reform bill, which former President Trump and the Republican Party publicly admitted that they killed together after it had been negotiated. So that is not an issue that helps Mr. Trump, because more and more of the electorate have come to understand that he did not want reform established because he believed that it would help him. And he's going to bet wrong on that. It is not going to help him. And on the economy, if I may, your last guest, with all due respect to him, he left out some very important proper context. Let me preface by saying that I'm someone who is a former MAGA activist, a pundit, unapologetically supported former President Trump and worked to get him elected and reelected. So I say all of this in that context. First off, President Trump inherited what was a very strong post-recovery Obama economy. As far as gas prices were low during the pandemic because very few people were driving. Now, economic opportunity has always been and always should be a centerpiece issue for any candidate. But I would like to point out what the data actually shows. Not only were the nearly 7 million jobs that were lost during the pandemic recovered under the Biden-Harris administration, there were approximately another 10 million jobs, which were new jobs that were created in the last 4 years. Now, do I believe that some people probably are not as well off today as they were a year or 2 or 4 years ago? I don't doubt that. We're in a capitalist society and we have uneven outcomes. But I would ask your last guest to perhaps consider what he might say to someone who does have a job today, who has started a successful small business. There are millions and millions who actually have. So now we're back to the question of who's the better, more qualified candidate to drive economic growth. And President Biden has been very aggressive. I believe Vice President Harris will be even more aggressive in economic growth. We're talking about small business creation, housing costs. We're talking about families who are taking care of parents and their children. So again, we're back to who is the better fit. And I think the vice president has clearly made a better argument on the issue of the economy than former President Trump.
Anak, but talking about this issue, when we see Donald Trump, at least the projection is that he's a very business-friendly president. He's going to be a very business-friendly president. He's already had support of, big businesses like Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, has already, in fact, gone all out to support President Donald Trump. In that context, how are the, average Americans seeing this entire race to the White House?
Well, yeah, look, we can debate the details. We can debate the details of the economy or even the border deal. Look, the Republicans had good reasons for not cooperating with that border deal. They thought it was giving too much money to the bureaucracy and not solving the actual enforcement issue. Same with the economy. Like I said, people, the public polling says that people do not feel that they are better off 4 years today than they were 4 years ago, pre-pandemic. So that emotion you can't really, deny. And so, even the support of the business people, the Silicon Valley has broken for Trump. That's true. But the larger business people, the financial giants, Wall Street has generally stayed quiet. And there is, and like I said, Vice President Harris has done some moves to be friendlier to Wall Street, be friendlier to the big business. She's in Pennsylvania, which is a swing state. She said that she might actually be softer on fracking and on oil, and so she has been trying to triangulate on this issue, which is to her credit. But I just don't know if the people are going to believe that, and that's why people keep saying that Trump will be the friendlier, better on economy, better on business, better on jobs. And I think that's why Vice President Harris has been focusing on the gender issue, has been focusing on the social issues and the law and order issues that Trump is going to, usher in the end of democracy and things like that. I think that's it's a fair tack to take, because people don't believe that the Democrats are better on business, are better on jobs. So it's better to focus on the things that can actually get you the votes than the things that are going to make you sound great, but aren't actually going to convince the voters, in my opinion.